Sorry for the disruption. We're back with you again. So we were just talking about fear and humor appeals. The two TVCs played back to back, and the one which was the Zuzu's one was to initiate how music is displayed in terms of advertising in order to attract attention. But here, let us first finish discussing the humor bit. The humor appeal, like in this ad you would have just seen, the Happy Dent ad. The basic idea was that once you have Happy Dent, your teeth shine so bright that you do not need the lights. So this was a humor appeal. As compared to this, music also has inherent value that captures audience attention, and audiences are in rapt attention, or the recall value stays with them for a long time, because music is something which is inherent to the human soul. So like you've seen in the ad, the TV commercial of Zuzu's, that there is a certain kind of music with which you rhyme it well and you identify well, and it stays with you for a longer time. So music is another appeal which you make use of in order to attract people's attention. Now, while we were talking about fear appeal, let us just look at this ad. I won't wear a helmet, it makes me look stupid. And this young lad met with an accident, and as you can see in the picture, there is a pair of old hands which are feeding him. And it says it is written in a very small font that the mental age of this boy is just 2 years. So this is the idea of creating a fear which will resonate in the minds of the audiences and will help them make a decision which will not let them be affected by something like this. In this case, it is wearing a helmet. So the man thought that it is stupid to wear a helmet because he looks stupid while wearing a helmet. And here he is. This is the kind of end one can meet up with if you don't take safety precautions. So this is the use of fear appeal. Now, we just discussed the music appeal. There is also a certain kind of sex appeal, which, it's always the opposite sex that attracts. So sensuality raises audience curiosity. People stay glued to ads of that sort. But then the use must be very strategic. The use of sex appeal in advertisements should be such that they do not look vulgar. Because improper use will create a negative effect, and it will be either against the usual cultural norms of the society. They will be the crossing the limits of vulgarity for any society, and these definitions from one society to another are different. So ideally one must adhere to the cultural norms of a society and accordingly make use of sex appeal wherever necessary and only strategically. Now, talking of the masculine feminine appeal. This appeal focuses on product features that will be imparted to the customer or the consumer as a result of its usage. Most popular things among this is the use of bikes. You would usually see men posing and women being attracted to men because they ride a marvelous bike, like in this case. So ideally, this ad depicts that how a man will be able to attract more beautiful women because he rides a nice bike. Another example of this masculine feminine appeal is this: strong is beautiful. WTA, the World Women's Tennis Association, has released this ad, strong is beautiful. So the feminine appeal that comes out through this, women, the definitions of beauty and how they have been changing, how they have been converging, how strength of character, strength of what you're able to do in life calls for being beautiful rather than just facial features. So it has changed over a period of time. Then there is also a scarcity appeal. This usually is often used in promotional items, promotional things, and is limited to a certain period of time. Like most of the times you would see that the offer exists only as long as the stock lasts. So what is the idea? The idea is to create an urgency for the customer to hurry up and make a purchase decision, else the commodity will be finished, or the service period will be over. So this is the scarcity appeal. These are the various kinds of appeals that we make use of in advertising in order to persuade the consumer to make the right purchase decision, which in this case is the sale or purchase of goods and services, so that there can be some profit making on the end of the organization. Now let us discuss adventure and bandwagon appeals. When adventure appeal is something which associates the product features and its usage with fun or adventure. So it is usually portrayed that life will change drastically after the product's use. You would all have seen the Mountain Dew ad, "Dar ke aage jeet hai." So ideally, the kind of emotion that is being expressed is by the use of this product or service, you can build in some inherent qualities in you which were not existent until now, but as a result of the usage of the product can lead you to, a drastic change in your lookout to life, in the way you live, and in the way the things will change for you. Then we also have the bandwagon appeal. This is usually effective because of peer pressure. When I say peer pressure, since everybody is doing it, so should you. And most of the times this is something which is applicable to teenagers, youngsters, young adults, people who are more gullible, more vulnerable, and are usually taken by what their friends believe in. The rational part does not work, the logical part does not work, but what works is what the rest of them are doing. So everybody wants to have a similar kind of hairstyle. And for that hairstyle, if you are required to use a certain kind of hair gel, everybody would like to use that. There are certain brands that youngsters love to spot. And that is what the entire peer group copies as well. So this is the bandwagon effect, the bandwagon appeal of advertising. Then testimonials are one. You would all remember the Dove soap ad, whereby the brand is talking to satisfied customers who would share their positive experiences and talk about the good qualities of the product or service, and would promise a similar service for you if you choose to buy that product or service. So these are called the testimonial appeals. Most of the time they are made use of for products or services whereby the competition in the field is so much that customer most of the times will not be able to differentiate between the qualities of one product and one brand as compared to the other. So testimonials work there. When we say slice of life, we refer to those life problems that can be solved by the use of this product. Say for example, the ad of Harpic. It stresses upon this removal of stains which are there in bathrooms and other places. So ideally, what is it that it brings back? It brings back a solution to a problem which usually is common in most homes, and everybody looks for an effective and less time consuming way of getting rid of it. So this is the slice of life appeal. Also, we have a snob appeal and weasel words appeal. When we say snob appeal, a snob is a person who would look down upon people or who usually has a superiority complex about himself or herself. So snob appeals usually create feelings of desire and envy for those products belonging to which you would like to look like a snob, or you would like to throw that attitude. So that these are the ones that have luxury and elegance associated with them. So say for example, the ads of large sedan cars. So anybody who comes out has this snobbish attitude or is made to look in that light in an advertisement. So this is called a snob appeal. When we talk of weasel words, we talk about those superficial claims that a lot of times advertisements make, but they do not come up to that mark. So ideally, the superficial and ambiguous claims that are made by brands come under weasel words. Now, these are all the different kinds of appeals that we've so far discussed. We make use of one or more, though not many, maybe one or two of such kind of appeals, so that we are able to directly reach out to the customer and make our way amongst a lot of information that is available to the customer on the same subject or on the same idea. Now let us come to the second part of this session, which is ad communications. Like we had certain models about communication, in advertising or persuasive communication as well, we have certain dominant models. These are the ways we communicate or we design the media messages so that they may have the maximum effect on the target group. Now, one of them is William McGar's information processing model that came in around 1960s, and it talks of these basic ideas. It talks about exposure, it talks about attention, comprehension and acceptance, and then it talks about retention. If you would all recall, in one of my previous sessions on the theories of communication, I talked about the selective processes. Selective comprehension, selective retention and selective exposure. This model falls quite in line with that. When I say exposure, exposure comes to an individual or to an audience based on certain stimuli. These stimuli could be the dominant market values. These stimuli could be those pieces of information that any audience segment or any consumer would like to, expose himself to. So there is always a selective exposure to information. Why is that so? We don't like to, if you are students of communication or mass communication, you would like to expose yourselves to information which is connected with it. You may not like to study geography until it is of your interest, or you may not like to study something which has nothing to do with your area of work. So ideally, there are choices of what kind of information should you want yourself to be exposed to, and stimuli is provided by the market forces, by the persuaders, by the advertisers, so that you look at those pieces of information, you expose your mind to those pieces of information. The next three processes are mental processes: attention, comprehension and accept. You pay attention to only those things, selective attention, selective perception, what I spoke of in the theory of selective processes. Attention is paid only to those things which are in direct consonance with your pre-existing values and beliefs. So out of a plethora of information that is available to you, in an ideal situation, you would like to pay attention only to a few for which you have the, you are able to absorb and you have the time to expose yourself to. So you pay attention to selective pieces of information only. And then this will depend upon the memory of whether or not you remember that information in later times. Based on that attention, you do not remember. When I say memory, you do not remember all the information that you read. Say, for example, you read a newspaper. You do not remember all the news items that you have come across. But the ones that have made a mark on your mind, which you have identified with, which you would like to explore more, is the one that you would recall more. So based upon what all is recalled out of the ones that you have paid attention to, you would put in more thought, you will comprehend, you will think about only a certain section of that information. Again, based on what you remember out of what you have comprehended, you would make your acceptance decision, as in you would accept those pieces of information, again depending upon your pre-existing values and beliefs. So those that are in direct consonance with your pre-existing values, belief, culture, everything, is the kind of information which will find more acceptance. That is precisely the reason why advertisers like to know their consumers. There is so much professional research done on what is it that audiences like, what is it that they negate, what is it that they do not accept. So many areas of audience studies. Out of whatever has been accepted, what retains is the recall value. So if I accept, say for example, I just showed 2 commercials to you, 2 TVCs that had different appeals in them. So if I agree with the idea of happy dent, when I go to make my purchase, whether I choose Happy Dent or whether I choose a Colgate or some other Ayurvedic toothpaste, will have a lot to do on my retention value. So whatever has been retained, whatever information has been impressed upon me in a way that I am totally agreeable with it and I am ready to make part with my money for that, is something which will be decided by retention. So this is the ideal way information gets processed, how we are exposed to the information, to the way it is processed mentally within us, and then how we make a purchase decision based on whether or not we have accepted the information completely. Coming to the second model, the IDA model. IDA again talks about attention, interest, desire, and action. The first and the most basic challenge for any advertiser is to attract attention of the audiences. So, the focus of the audiences is something that everybody vies for. So once the attention is with you, you create an interest in the product or service that you're trying to sell. So you try and create the need for it, you try and impress upon the audience as to how this can fulfill some interest, some gaps in the person's life. Based on the interest, the desire gets created. Now starts the role of the consumer, because then you are desirous of purchasing that product or service. So far the advertising is doing its job. So this piece of persuasive communication has been able to create a need. First, it has been able to get your attention. Then it has created an interest. And then it is expressing that there is a need which needs to be fulfilled. And so there is a desire in the consumer to buy it. And then finally, the advertisement becomes successful when the purchase decision is made, which is in favor of the brand. This is the action bit of it. And this is called the IDA model. The third model that we're going to deal with is DAGMAR. DAGMAR is defining advertising goals for measured advertising results. So you define the goals and then measure the results accordingly. Now there are again 4 steps which are involved in this. One is awareness, one is comprehension, one is conviction, and one is action. So you first become aware that such kind of a product exists. And the advertiser creates an environment where it will be conducive for the consumer to take in such kind of an information. You become more aware of the existence of a certain brand. Then it comes to comprehension, quite similar to the information processing model, whereby we say that comprehension is when the audiences start thinking about the product or service and whether it will be of some use or benefit, and they would want some detailed information on the product and service, and they would also evaluate whether or not the competition is better than this product in the market. The third action is conviction, where you are convinced whether or not this brand is going to serve your needs and whether you're going to get complete value for money. And that is the most important decision to make, because once the conviction is there, then finally it can turn into a desired behavior change. When I say a desired behavioral change, I am talking of the action, which is the purchase decision being made, the consumer parting with her monies to buy that product or service. So these are the various models based on which advertising works. Now, in the same breath, let me also tell you about the strategies of advertising. Majorly, there are just 2 kinds of strategies that we make use of. One is push, where we push the product towards the consumer, and one is pull, whereby we pull the customer to our service or product. Now, when I say push strategy, it is basically aimed at wholesalers and retailers. Why? Because we are trying to impress upon them how important our brand is, or how successful our brand is, or how the retailer will be able to reap greater benefits if he pushes this brand to the consumer. So the objective is to make them stock the products of a certain brand and to push them to the consumer. So you would often see that when you go to a shop to purchase, say for example, a toothpaste, you would opt for one, you would take the name of a certain brand, and the shopkeeper might just suggest that this is a better one that people are buying more, or this is more successful, or he would highlight certain qualities of another brand's product, same product. And you might just end up listening to him and making the purchase decision in favor of the second brand and not the one that you had thought you would bring back home. So ideally, the objective is to stock the products and push it to the consumer through the retailers or the wholesalers. The tool used can be multifarious, they can be trade shows, they can be high commission rates which you offer to the retailers to push their products. They can also be subsidies. So ideally, you have to show how certain kind of profit, certain kind of benefit can be reaped by the retailers in an ideal situation if everything works well. Then direct selling. All these things are all these tools are the various ways how you make use of in order to push the product. Then when we talk of the pull strategy, product is pulled by the customer demand. So if the demand for a certain product rises, obviously the customer comes asking for the same product again and again. There are multiple customers who will be asking for the same product, and then the product will vanish from the shops. So there has to be a pull strategy that advertisers look at creating. This is also aimed at consumers. The objective is to create a demand amongst the consumers so that they ask for more and more, they clamor for more and more, and then their demand is fulfilled. The tools used for pull strategy is advertising, word of mouth, public relations, etc. And whenever we talk about marketing or whenever we talk about choosing a strategy, the strategy is usually customized based on the objectives that you're trying to make, and a mix of push and pull are used. So with that, we come to the end of this session, and shortly within 5 minutes the next session would begin. Till then, keep thinking creatively. See you shortly. Thank you.